You are listening to the Slow Living Podcast, and I'm your host, Stephanie O'Day. What if I told you that you could truly have the life of your dreams, the life you've always wanted, one filled with abundance, joy, and a sense of purpose? It's absolutely possible, and I see it each and every day with my coaching clients. It all starts with learning how to slow down. You deserve to live the life you've always dreamt about. Let's get started. Hi there, Slow Down Society. Steph here, and we are on episode 136 of the Slow Living Podcast. I'm thrilled to have my friend Diane Moca in the house today. Diane and I hit it off at a business conference, and we immediately sort of melded because while she does an awful lot, she has purpose at heart first. And so that her story, her second act story, is inspiring because wherever you are, if you have the idea that it's too late or life is rushing by me and I don't have time to slow down and decide on purpose what the next step is, I think you'll learn an awful lot on how Diane decided, life is long and this is my story and I am going to shift and change the trajectory. So Diane, thank you. Thank you for joining us today on the Slow Living Podcast.
Thank you, Stephanie. I'm really excited to be here and share all of that and more.
So we are interviewing you, yet you have a very long history of interviewing others.
That's true. That's true. When I went to college, I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I interned at a TV station, and I was bit, and I said, this is it. I love the adrenaline rush. I love the idea of storytelling, and I got into journalism and didn't look back. And it was a tough field. It was tough because people don't realize it's low paying. Of course, it's long hours. You have to really be dedicated to your craft as well as to other people. You have to really open yourself up and care about other people and their stories, because when you're a journalist, the story is about somebody else. It's not about you. And that was my first act. That was my career that I loved and pursued. And I was fortunate enough to find a television station where I worked that allowed me to split my time between my career and my kids. When I first got into journalism, I didn't have kids. When I had my kids, I thought, oh, I'll take a few years off. And then a funny little thing happened. My first child was 6 months old, and I went to visit the TV station, and I hadn't worked there in 6 months. Had been freelance and not full time, so I could just sort of come and go. And when I went back to visit, my managing editor said to me, boy, we really miss you. We would love to have you back. And I said, oh, that's very sweet, but I really want to spend time with my baby, and I wouldn't want to come back unless it was only 1 or 2 days a week. And I laughed. I said this as a joke. Yeah. And he said, I think we could arrange that. Why didn't I, as a woman, step up and say, here's what I want? If I hadn't made that joke, my life would not have gone the way it did, in the wonderful way it did. And so because he made that comment, I think we can arrange that. For the next 15 years, I worked 2 days a week at this television station, and the other 5 days a week, I did the quote unquote stay-at-home mom stuff that I loved. You know, I was hands-on with the homework, and I was the Girl Scout leader and the soccer coach, and, you know, going to all of their games and activities and recitals and everything.
Yeah, no, I like that because we talk a lot on the podcast about being an and land. So it's not an either or. Like, let's figure out how to make it a both and. And I think sometimes we cut ourselves short, and there can be a both and. You can be a great mom and have a fulfilling career. You can really kind of scratch your creative itch and your kind of bouncy, like entrepreneurial brain, but then also still be a fully present and hands-on mom. And so, so I think that's why you and I have connected so quickly and easily. And then also when we talk, because of your journalist background and being able to talk to other people, I can immediately like feel your empathy. One face to face when we were together, but then now also through Zoom, you do have a gift of connecting to other people.
Thank you, Stephanie. And I do want to mention when you talk about the and, I completely agree. I do that in so many areas of my life, but I want to emphasize to people listening that the and doesn't mean that you're doing everything perfectly or even as good as you think you should be. The more ands you add to your life, the more you have to let go of this idea of, I'm going to meet my own high standards.
Mm,
And that took a long time to learn because every step of the way, I just kept feeling like I was
mm,
falling short. And thankfully, I had others around me who would say, "Oh, I really envy you. I work full time. I wish I could be home with the kids as much as you are." Or, "Oh, I really envy you. I gave up my career. I'm with the kids. I'm glad I'm here, but I really miss interacting with, other adults or just having something to pursue outside." But I never felt like I was juggling the way that I should have because I just felt like, oh my gosh, I'm so missing the mark in every area because I'm trying to do too much. And my life didn't become as fulfilling until I gave that idea up, that I had to reach my own expectations
mm.
in all these different areas because it was impossible. So I think the people like us who might be A type personalities, or even if you're not, but when you're trying to do all the things, to recognize that you're never going to do it to the extent that you could if you focused just on one, and
Yeah. So
letting that idea go.
how did you shift that? Because in order to have done the career you do have to be detail oriented and kind of type A. So how did you cut yourself some slack and stop beating yourself up?
I came to a crisis. I
Mm,
came to a couple crises. I I didn't just do journalism and be, try to be all the things a stay-at-home mom will be, but when our family was short on money, I decided to start a side hustle, which is how you and I met because I became
yeah.
an accidental entrepreneur. I was listening in my car to audiobooks.
Hmm.
And I didn't even realize, but I was giving myself a whole new education. I picked up a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad and
Hmm.
realized, oh, there's this little side business I could start in real estate. And then I just started to listening to more and more books like that. And I would do it when I would come home at night after everyone in my family was asleep. And one thing led to another. And all of a sudden I had a dozen rental properties that I was managing. And then the market crashed.
Yeah. So was that the 2008 crash?
It sure
Okay.
was. It was the big one. And for the next, 4 or 5 years, we struggled terribly. And of course, I took on all that burden and all that guilt that it was my fault. And I was doing everything I could. It didn't happen overnight. And
Yeah.
so my realization of not being able to juggle everything and do it to the level that I wanted to didn't happen overnight either. But there was a crisis in particular where I was on the couch for like an entire weekend and literally couldn't move, something that's
Mm,
very unlike me because I could not see a way out. I couldn't come up with a solution. And I tried to be solution oriented. And eventually I said, I think I could do this. I think I could modify this loan. I think I could send a bank this letter. I think I could do that. And everyone said, you're crazy. And it took a lot longer than I thought, but I had to let go of certain things to not lose it all, to
yeah.
not, because that weekend I lost it all. Like
Mm,
I just lost my mind. And
yeah.
I said, but this isn't me. And so I think a crisis sometimes brings you to that point. And so that's when the shift started, but nothing happens instantaneously. So it was a constant dance of going
Yeah.
back and forth between, you know, can I let go a little of this area? Okay, I'm going to have my husband help me, dress the kids in the morning and not have my
Yeah.
daughter in the cute little outfits that I
Yeah.
pick out, all those things, right?
Yeah. Well, and it's paying attention to the here and now and sort of what is the top priority. When you're in front of the kids, it's the kids. When you're at work, it's work. And interesting like that. So I didn't realize that you had started with personal development and finance books with Rich Dad Poor Dad. That actually in 99 or so was the first kind of finance personal development book that I read. I actually started an Amazon account in order to buy that book. And it was because he was on Oprah. And there's an awful lot. So one thing I caveat about any self-help or personal development or finance book, don't just read one and follow that as a prescription. You have to research and be curious as much as possible, and then filter through your own life experience and wisdom and nuances and socioeconomic kind of life trajectory. So I know that I hit upon the word curious just then, and I saw your eyes spark up because that's one of your favorite words.
Of course, you need curiosity to be a reporter, but I think in life, curiosity serves you well. Be interested in people, in other things. I was not that interested in finance. I didn't think the world of business was for me. I never intended to be an entrepreneur. But after that book, and I got one rental property, I said, maybe I should learn some more. And I picked up a book called No Money Down.
Mm.
Boy, did I learn a lot from that. Because back then you could buy a lot of properties with no money down, and I kind of went a little crazy. But I was at another conference a while ago, and it was all women, and we were sharing our mentors and what they meant to us in our life. And of course, I have had personal mentors, but I raised my hand and stood up and said, the most important mentors in my life are the authors of literally more than 100 books that
Yeah.
I've listened to in the last more than 10 years. And every one that I listen to, by the end, I feel like I've gained not just this knowledge, but this connection to this person and this lived experience and vicarious experience of the things that they did right and wrong that I can learn from. And like you said, adapt to my own life, not
Yeah.
necessarily just take everything they're saying. Oh, I must follow that. But every little book, whether it was specifically about real estate, and then eventually I moved into Tony Robbins and all of the self development. And anytime, even now, I find myself getting in a funk, I'll go on YouTube and I'll look up a TED talk about something. Someone said I was, I was being too demanding, and I
Mm.
kind of felt like, I think they're saying that because I'm a woman in charge. And I think this
Yeah.
is the kind of thing I wouldn't be hearing if I was a man. And I found a couple of TED
Yeah.
Talks about stepping into the bitch role, not to use,
Yeah.
whoops, I hope I
No,
don't
that's
get
okay.
bleed.
No,
But,
you're good.
not that you want to embrace a negative connotation, but you want to
Yeah.
understand that sometimes people are going to evaluate you in ways that aren't pleasant or positive, and that may not even be a reflection on you. It's more a reflection on them and how they see your role in the world. And you
Yeah.
have to define your own role.
I was really impressed by you because you listened to the interview that I did with Liz Elting of the Dream Big. And then you reached out to her, you cold emailed her, and that's a pretty gutsy move.
Well, I think I learned to take any gutsy move I wanted in life by being a reporter. I mean, it was just an amazing uh, set of lessons for life, because as a reporter, you can't be afraid to talk to anyone, anytime, anywhere about anything. And especially as a television reporter, you have to go up to people, but you don't have to go up to somebody and stick a mic in their face
Right.
and make them uncomfortable.
No.
So that's what I learned, the nuance. You use that word, and that's a very important word. I had to talk to people who lost a loved one in a horrible, tragic way many times, a murder, a car accident. And I used to say to people, I don't want to do a story about how they died, the police talking about the trajectory of the bullets or the angle of the vehicle when it hit. I want to talk about how they lived. And the only way I can do that is to talk to you, someone who really knew them, and to share that. And I didn't say that as a line. It came out of me organically,
Yeah.
and I really meant it. And that's another part of being authentic, curious and nuanced, but ballsy, right?
Yeah.
Willing to just go for it and get doors slammed in your face. You
Yeah.
have to accept that life is full of rejection and failure and no's, and just know in your heart that the yes is out there somewhere. And
Mm.
right now I'm at a place in my journey where I have a new business to serve women who
Mhm.
are struggling with childcare. And in order for this business to grow, I need funding. And
Yeah.
that means a lot of no's. It could be 50, it could be 100, it could be 200. I don't care. there is a yes out there somewhere, and I'm going to keep going until I get it.
Yeah. So I want to talk about your new business. So the website is called MomSub, all one word, MomSub. And it's exactly what you think it might be. If you are a mom and you need a sub, the same way a kindergarten teacher would need a sub, this is what Diane has created. So, how did you go from that kind of 2008 crash of not wanting to get off the couch to just completely and totally invigorated with this brand new entrepreneurial journey?
Well, that was quite a journey because, that 2008 was a while ago, right?
Yeah.
16 years ago. So I got off the couch. I managed to turn our real estate business around. It took many years, and as I say, it was harder than giving birth. But I did it, and in the meantime, I was interested in entrepreneurship more and more, and we
Yeah.
got our kids a game called Cash Flow, which you're
Oh,
familiar
yeah.
with. Robert Kiyosaki, when they were young teens, and they were so excited about it that they played it every day of Christmas break. We got it for a Christmas present. And I said, I want to show you a real life example. And I went on Craigslist and found someone selling a business. And I called them up and they said, it was a family business. And can I bring my kids and just kind of talk about it? It was going to be a teachable moment, right? But as I'm
Yeah.
walking out the door, I grabbed my checkbook. And when I met this family and saw this wonderful little business where they deliver signs to people in the middle of the night. So when someone wakes up in the morning, there's a sign celebrating their
Yes.
birthday.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yes.
Yeah, I said, this is great. And it was enough money that it could help pay for the travel baseball and the private voice lessons that I was starting to get nervous. How are we going to be able to afford this? And the kids could help. So
Yeah.
we get this business. And so now I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've got a real estate
Yeah, you
business. I've
are.
got this sign business. I've got, my husband and family are getting more involved in helping me. During the pandemic, the business exploded. So
Mm.
I learned how to quickly pivot and take a little side business into something that we had 5,000% increase in demand and quickly hire people and manage and logistics. And it was insane, all of the skills that I just overnight kind of taught myself. And I gained a newfound confidence in my ability to be a manager, a leader, a business owner, an entrepreneur. And I kind of ran with that. And it was around that time, about a year later, I was at a conference as a reporter, and they were talking about people disrupting industries. You have to solve a big problem. And I thought, oh my gosh, as a mom running these businesses, still being a freelance reporter, and being hands on with my kids, I need time. And women are sometimes hesitant to hire childcare for any reason other than work, just to have some time to go get their hair done or go to the gym or, take a walk or take a nap, I shouldn't pay somebody. And so I thought, what if I could help them find childcare in a way that they wouldn't feel guilt about it and that it
Mhm.
would be easier to do. And so that was when the idea first came to me. But when I looked into how much it would take to pursue it, I realized I couldn't add that and at that time.
Yeah.
So I kept it in the back of my head. And when my
Yeah.
daughter went to college, I said, now's the time. Both the kids are gone. I'm going to pursue this dream. And I had come up with this idea for MomSub, the substitute mom. And I just started pursuing it and learning about a whole new area, a tech startup, and
Yeah.
going to incubators and all of these terms I had never even heard before. What do you do to learn? Education. I'm listening to Masters of Scale right now, by the person who started LinkedIn, Reid Hoffman, I believe is the
Okay.
author's name.
Yeah. Okay. So you give us a lot there. And so I want to unpack it a little because it's fascinating. But if you're listening, the key takeaway is one, if you have a good idea, it's still going to be a good idea in a few years. So don't feel like you're behind or you have to rush or you have to do all of the things all of the time. A good idea, you're not going to forget. So everyone talks about like, quick, write it down. If it feeds your soul and it's a good idea, your back of your brain will continue to percolate on it. And then I feel like when you and I were in person, I used the metaphor of like the Wizard of Oz, and you just know the Emerald City is there. but you can't see it yet. But that's okay. So just follow the breadcrumbs, the one foot in front of the other, and the follow the yellow brick road. But and just trust. You didn't know when you were lying on the couch, kind of just upset at the world crumbling all around you, that what you wanted, what it looked like. You just sort of had an inkling that there was more out there, and you had enough evidence that, and you were starting to collect that evidence, that you'll know it when you see it, and you'll know a good opportunity, and you'll follow your hunches and your nudges and your intuition. And if you're religious, it's the voice of God. God's meeting you halfway. Or if you're woo, it's the universe will meet me halfway. And just trusting you will take the next best step to get you to your own version of the Emerald City. And my hat is off to you. I think it's thrilling to watch someone just go for it bit by bit, and inch by inch.
And I want to bring back what you said at the very beginning of the conversation about the second act, because many people do think, oh, the kids have gone off to college. We've got an empty nest now. It's time to kick back. And that's fine if that's what you want to do. But sometimes I think people feel that that's something that they're supposed to do, that society tells them to do. And sometimes people lose a little excitement for life when they start to kick back, because they don't have anything they're as passionate about as they were about the kids or their career. Or maybe they've had this career for a long time that they used to love, and they're almost embarrassed to admit it's not quite feeding my soul the way it used
Yeah.
to. And while I love journalism, it's changed a lot. And there was a newfound desire in me to leave an impact on this world, to leave a legacy in a way that all the wonderful stories that I did that had an impact at the time might not have in the long term. And always thought my legacy would be my children, right? They're going to go out and do wonderful things. And then I turned inward after the house is empty and said, what about me? I
Mm,
want to go out and do wonderful things. And it's not too late.
it's
You
not too
know,
late.
I do have a lot of energy, and that is helpful. But I think one of the reasons I have that is one of the books, whether it's The Secret or Napoleon Hill's book, that talks about the power of positivity and the law of attraction. I don't know if there's scientific basis behind it. I certainly know it doesn't work all of the time, but I do know that I spent a few years focused on problems,
Yeah.
and those were the toughest years of my life. And the years that I finally made a shift and focused on solutions made a huge difference. And even when you can't see the solutions, to just know they're there and try
Yeah.
something, even if it's crazy, to get yourself out of a rut or to take that next step. Because the yellow brick road is there, but a lot of times you can't see it. It's covered in leaves, right? And so, if you're on the yellow brick road, or if you're on the asphalt, or if you're
Yeah.
in the grass, and you're just, like you said, the city's out there, but you may be going the wrong direction for a while.
Yeah.
But if you keep going forward, you're never going to get there if you sit or you
Yeah.
give up or you go backwards. You have to just keep going forward.
Yeah, it's interesting because I mean, I'm a huge fan of mindset work, as you know, and I do believe in manifestation. But manifestation isn't sitting on a mountaintop kumbayaing all day long. When you have the idea, that's the idea, and you have to actually spring into action to make to make it come true. And that's when God or the universe will meet you halfway. You do have to do your part. And sometimes, to some people looking from afar into your life, it looks like it happened by magic, or it looks like you manifested it. But there's stuff behind the scenes, and there's grit, and there's work, and sleepless nights, and making the uncomfortable phone call, or connecting on LinkedIn, and putting yourself out there in a rather uncomfortable way. I like your idea of collecting no's, because whatever, like I'm still kicking. The no isn't gonna crush me. It's just another no. Okay, well, let's try something else then.
Mhm. And one of the things you just mentioned made me realize that as you're going through that, like you said, with the grit and the sleepless nights, I try to make sure I have as few as possible because I prioritize self-care.
Mm,
And and this is something I think I did even when I was younger without realizing, but as I got older, I became more intentional about it. And so all my life, I always loved to bike ride. And I made sure no matter what was going on in my life, once a week, the kids would go to the grandparents, and I would take that time to get on my bike and go for an hour or two and get out in the fresh air and enjoy. If it was too cold to bike ride in Chicago, which it is several months of the year, I would go and take a walk. And now that my kids are grown, I bike ride almost every day. If
mm,
it's above 50 degrees, my intention is to get on that bike. I try. Now, last night I didn't. I got up a little early today for the podcast to get about 7 hours of sleep and wake up when my body naturally wakes up. I very much concentrate on eating lots of fruits and vegetables. I mean, I know that sounds so corny, but
yeah,
it really does make a difference in life. And I was just telling a friend the other night, I didn't used to always, when I wake up in the morning, put on my makeup, especially nowadays, right? You work from home a lot, but you have sometimes a different way you carry yourself
you
and
do.
feel when you put yourself together and you're not wearing your sweats and no makeup and kind of looking down. I got to run to the store and I don't look very good. And you know what? The
Yeah,
more you do it, the quicker it becomes and the more it becomes part of a habit. And if you can just throw on sort of your minimal makeup to feel
yeah,
okay in 5 minutes, it makes a difference in your day. So along with all those things, it doesn't mean you need to pile on more stuff. It means do the things that you know feed yourself and
yeah.
make you feel good and healthy and strong. And one of the reasons I think that a lot of people tell me I have a lot of energy is I do focus on being healthy. And that keeps you going because you need that physical strength to have the mental strength.
Yeah, absolutely. I recorded an episode a while ago and Taylor can link to it, but it's called Remember the Mom. So the woman behind the mom, because she's in there. And yes, in order to do all the things for all the people all the time, you actually do have to take care of yourself and all of that. Hey there. Are you looking for an easier way to meet your goals without sacrificing your ethics or morals? If so, you're going to want to check out the new masterclass I recorded on how to achieve more by learning how to slow down. I know it sounds like an oxymoron, but I promise you that this is a proven system that works. If you're ready to finally meet your personal and professional goals without sacrificing yourself or your sanity, check out this new recording at stephanieoday.com/masterclass. Okay, back to this week's episode. So, speaking of taking care of all of the people all of the time, that's what MomSub is helping moms, especially, help them learn how to take care of themselves in a little bit by essentially hiring out some help when needed. So, how does the website work, and what is the trajectory? Because I find the whole thing fascinating, and there's absolutely a need and a want for this.
Thank you. Yes, I agree. I hear people all the time say there should be an Uber of childcare, and that's what my intention is to build. But it's not just to have this great childcare company. It's to reduce the stress, the guilt, and the self-criticism that moms experience on a daily basis generally, and by increasing their calm, their confidence, and clarity. Well, how can childcare do that? Well, first of all, we do it in a way that we try to take all of the burden off of the parent. We find a lot of parents, moms especially, those who are working nights or weekends or part-time have a much harder time finding childcare. And it's a process that takes them many hours, sometimes a couple of months. It took me 4 years and 12 nannies to find the right one.
OMG. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I want to take that burden away through technology and AI. So we have a roster of hundreds of childcare providers, and we have a proprietary algorithm where it only takes you a few minutes to put in all the key information. And then we find the match for you that's going to fit your schedule and your desires, when, where, and how you want childcare, and serve it up to you and say, this isn't a list like all of the other competition is going to give you with 20 nannies or childcare providers or daycare centers that you've got to contact and find out what's the wait list. Oh, you're not available any longer. Oh, I can't afford you. No, this is the one that's going to fit the criteria of what you need. And then we're going to handle everything. You just pay through the app. We are developing an app, but right now you can access the business through our website, which is MomSub, like a substitute, MomSub.com. And we're in the Chicago area, but we want to expand. So if you're not in the Chicago area, send an email to info@momsub.com and tell us the next city we should go to, because we want to take the burden away of having to find and arrange and manage the childcare. So from the moment you get in, we're helping you. What we're really doing is providing a nanny agency for middle class moms.
Yeah.
Wealthy moms have opportunities like this. I believe every mom should have an opportunity for somebody to find the right childcare. And then if for some reason after 6 months or a year, I just heard from someone last night, yeah, we need to find somebody else, we're there again for them. And we stay with them through the whole process. You pay every week through the app if you want someone every week, or if you need someone just on date nights, whenever that comes along, you go into the app and find it. And so I had to learn all of this and hire an offshore company to create, the technology. And I'm sending in all the bug fixes. So we're very close to launching. It should be launching literally, within a short period of time, so that people are going to have access to, whether it's the website or the app, or whatever way that they want to get the childcare that they need. We're going to be there for them. And that's my vision, is to help millions of moms to not have childcare be something that turns their stomach in knots. Oh my
Hmm.
gosh, I've got to find somebody new again. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, my nanny called in
Yeah.
sick. What am I going to do? I need that emergency backup care. And part of our new mission is that there are a lot of companies thinking about adding a childcare benefit as part of the benefits package
Hmm.
to the overall package of benefits that are offered to employees. And this is going to be a huge shift in the corporate America offerings for people who struggle with this, which is not just moms, but so many parents. And so we are offering a MomSub premium program to corporate America. And
Hmm.
our vision there is to have more and more companies offer childcare as a benefit. Maybe it's just 3 or 4 days a year that they're going to pay for, excuse me,
No, it's
emergency
fine.
care. Or
Yeah.
maybe they're going to cover your childcare all of the
Yeah.
time. Depends on the company and the position you're in. But wouldn't that be a wonderful thing for it to be as common as healthcare benefits?
Yeah. So I do think in order for our country to continue to grow and expand, families need support and they need help. Otherwise, a whole bunch of people are just going to decide to not have kids because it's too expensive and it's too much hassle. And we're already seeing it with the younger generation, and that they're like, this. I've seen my parents struggle. I don't want that, so I'm just going to choose not to procreate. And that's kind of how society dwindles away. So something has to shift, and I love your ideas. And what I got just a kick out of from you is when you sought me out and you sat next to me and you started explaining everything, and then I start asking you questions. You're like, and you literally had thought everything through. You had an answer to everything. And I was talking about how, well, there's stay-at-home moms who maybe want to to work themselves, but they are concerned because they can't leave their 2-year-old. And how would it work if someone wanted to bring their own child with them? And you're like, oh, there would be options for that, and blah blah blah. Like, it was just so well thought of. And then I know, because I'm in a school setting right now, we have plenty of parents who want to come in and like work in the library at the elementary school. but because of liability, the school won't allow them to bring their young one on campus for literally just an hour. We're talking that you need childcare once a week. And this fills the void in so many ways.
Well, what you were just talking about with moms wanting to maybe find a way to work and earn some extra money while bringing their kids, we are offering that through MomSub through the gig work economy. So
Mm-hmm.
all of our childcare providers are gig workers. They're not employees of MomSub, but we do pay them. We collect the money from the customers. We call them the mom outs, right? Because mom's out for a bit, and
Yep.
then the mom sub steps in. And so, of course, we do an intense vetting process. We make sure everyone is safe, but we offer an option. Do you have children you want to bring with you? And sometimes they're hesitant. Well, is that okay? Yes, it's okay. We'll find a family that welcomes that. And sometimes it takes a little education. Sometimes moms are like, well, I want them to focus on my kids. But what if we brought someone in who has kids the same age? It's like a play date. Your
Yeah.
kids are going to get to know other kids. They're going to get to know another culture, the way another family operates. These are all good things. We need to learn more about our neighbors and embrace the way we all live so that we can understand each other better. We've put up some walls between each other during the pandemic that we want to break down. And, moms break those down better than anyone else. And where do you see that? Sitting in the bleachers at the baseball games, right? The
Yeah.
moms are all talking. They're not thinking about, where are you from? What's your culture, religion? They're like, wait, you have a way to stop the baby from, crying at night? What
Yeah.
worked for you? We all share ideas. And
Yeah.
so this idea of a mom stepping in who understands kids from a mother perspective, it
Yeah.
doesn't negate that there are professional nannies out there or young women who have a lot of energy and want to run around with the kids, but it's another avenue and it's a way to grow the pool of childcare providers. And there is a lack of supply, especially of reliable childcare providers. And I tell you that sometimes a young person doesn't understand what the impact of maybe, oh, I can't show up or I'm going to quit. Today's my last day.
Yeah.
That, the impact of that on a family, and a mother is less likely to do that because she understands. She
Yeah.
has the maturity to realize, okay, maybe this isn't working out, but I need to give them notice. I need to communicate this with them. And so we're bringing that as well. This idea of doing gig work. Maybe you want to just work a few hours a week and have your kid with you. You can find the opportunity to do that. And this idea of having another mom that you can really trust and count on. And I have some customers who say the other moms that have come in and helped them as mom subs are now becoming like mom mentors to them. Some of them are grandma types that
Yeah.
give them advice and they lean on them. This is like the grandma my kids don't have.
Yeah.
It's amazing the stories that I'm hearing from the women that we're serving.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I know you and I had spoken about like military moms and expat moms and people who don't have their own village and they're struggling and sometimes like that witching hour from 4 to 6 p.m. where you want someone to take the kids to the park and get their wiggles out, but you're also trying to do all of the things and get dinner on the table, having that extra set of hands to be like, please just go walk them. Oh, and then by walk them, we also talked about rover and kind of maybe using that verbiage once in a while in your marketing because um
It is similar. We are
yeah,
offering something similar that Rover is doing, is, bringing people together and staying with them in this
yeah.
conversation so that we're there with them all along their entire journey for as long as they need childcare in their life. And then maybe even beyond if they want to continue to offer it at some point to others.
Yeah, it was yeah. And back to you really having done your homework and being curious when I started talking about like hotels and concierges, you're like, well, all of the concierges in Chicago already know us. Like done. Move on. So like you have really done a phenomenal amount of work and I'm so thrilled for you and I absolutely can see this being in a very organic way, like Uber and like Rover, starting in larger metropolitan areas first, and then spreading out. I think it's phenomenal. I think it's great also for travelers. You're in a hotel, you're away for your anniversary, and all of a sudden the kid is asleep at 7:30 to stay on their schedule, and you want to go out, but having someone or maybe even a college student bring their books and hang out and study in the room is just such a great idea.
Yeah, there's so many options, and we are pursuing all those things, and but it takes time before
Yeah.
everyone will know about us, and so we greatly appreciate you, bringing me on to talk about this, because it's something that I feel very passionate about, and I know this is going to be a long, difficult journey. So I'm prepared for that, because I've been down that road before, and
Yeah.
I'm not afraid of more challenges, because the rewards are going to be every day. I know we're helping more moms, and I want my team to think about that every day. How many moms can we help today? And when you help the mom, you help the whole family. As I always say, a
Mhm.
happy mom means a happy family. I spent a few years of my life very stressed out, and my kids remember those as the yelling years,
Mhm.
and not that I don't still lose it every so often, but I am much more calm than I used to be, because I understand about focusing on the solutions, and understand that you can't solve all the problems all at once, and sometimes you have to let some things go, and sometimes you have to reach out for help. And that was
Yeah.
part of what got me through, was I did reach out for help. And I was fortunate that I had some family to help, but so many people don't. And so I want to be that village for people, especially those who don't have the family. And even when you have
Yeah.
family, sometimes you feel guilty about reaching out to them, or
Yeah.
they're only available some of the time. They have their own life as well.
Yeah. It was neat, and you're a breath of fresh air when we connected at this business conference, because you were talking about people first, and not profit first, and it was just so lovely. You were talking about scaling because you wanted to help more, and you just sort of have this sort of trust factor that the money will follow, but that's not your primary concern, and it just was very refreshing.
Thanks. And they call that social impact enterprise, right? It's a business that's doing well by doing good. And that's really our focus. And there's more and more businesses that are really going in that direction. And there are more and more funds that are trying to support businesses that are doing something that's going to have a positive social impact on the world, helping people, whether it's with, family issues, the environment, whatever it may be. And
Yeah.
one of the things you mentioned before was about, what happens when people don't have the childcare they need. Well, 1.8 million moms every year leave a career that they don't want to leave, because they can't find affordable, accessible childcare in their community.
Mm,
And that is a problem that I am committed to solving. If you want to stay home with your kids, I applaud you for that. That's great. And you have the resources to do it. But if you want to work and you just simply can't, because you're just not finding the right childcare, especially those moms that find a great arrangement to work part time and say, this is my perfect scenario, like I found, but they just can't find the right childcare to fit it. And they get so frustrated, they
yeah,
quit. We want to help them as well.
that's wonderful. That's wonderful. So if you're listening right now and you think you have an idea and you have that, I don't know, or oh, I'm too old, or oh, every idea is already out there, and it's too late for me. What advice would you give?
You know, I I think, if, like you said earlier, if it's something you feel passionate about, you'll remember it. It'll stay in the back of your mind. Don't worry if you can't pursue it now. Try to take little steps. That's what I did in the beginning. I I did write out my idea. And as someone who does personal development, that writing out your goals does help you
Mhm.
to get closer to achieving them. So there's nothing wrong with writing it out. I put all those kinds of things in notes in my phone now. But I wrote it out. I sent it to a couple people who kind of gave me some feedback. And then as I pursued it more, I realized, oh, this is not something I could do right now. But I didn't forget about it totally, in a sense that every so often, if I had an idea about it, I would add to that document. And that person that I first shared it with is the
Hmm.
person that ended up becoming my first main advisor on the business that helped me get through a hump. Because in the beginning, I had a different business model that wasn't quite working. And he would kind of check in. Have people keep you accountable. Tell
Mm,
that person, I really do believe in this. And so don't make me feel bad about not pursuing it, but keep reminding me in an encouraging way. Include other people. Don't be afraid to share your idea that someone's going to steal it. Because
yeah.
as you know, execution is everything. Ideas are a dime a dozen, and don't be so shy about telling someone because you're going to be embarrassed if you don't do that. Tell someone you
Mm,
trust or someone you know would really understand and believe in your idea so that they can help you stay accountable. And I wouldn't be here today, I think, if it wasn't for that person that I shared that kept kind of nudging me every so often, literally every 6 months. I mean, this was a several year journey of saying,
yeah.
what's up with that? Yeah, I'm still thinking about that. I tried this, it didn't work. Well, try something else. I know. And I'm gonna do that. And so I felt like I had to keep going because somebody else was paying
Yeah.
attention. And so that's good too. Share your goals, write them down, and don't beat yourself up.
Yeah, I mean, coaching is a big part of that is the accountability and having another set of eyeballs on your brain and your ideas. Um, yeah, no, I completely agree with you. It's really interesting. It's interesting for me to to listen to you talk and a lot of how your brain works is quite similar to mine with the MomSub, when you first got the idea, did you search for the domain right away and snatch it up?
I did. I
Yeah,
did. Yes. And then once the business started taking off,
yeah.
I went in and learned myself how to create a trademark
Good for
so
you.
that I was protecting the name. And you know what? The name as a domain, that's a pretty simple, easy, inexpensive thing to do.
Yes. It's
And I
literally
could have
99 a month, or and sometimes a year if it's not a highly searchable term. Go ahead and buy it.
exactly.
And you
It
can
was
always flip it. You can always flip the domain once you owned it. Did I tell you this? I can't remember if I told you this or not. But one of my biggest domain flips was I bought this is silly. Don't judge me. Um, share your poop pictures online.com. And yeah. And my husband's like, why are you buying that? I'm like, I think it's a great idea. And he's like, who would use that? And I'm like, I don't know. But I held it for a few years and then I flipped it. And I think I made $3,500 on share your poop pictures online.com. So anyway, if you have an idea, it's okay to just go buy the domain.
That's interesting because my husband has bought a lot of domains in sort of the music industry and he used them for a while and some of them have been dormant but he still has them. But just there's so many ideas that you can get from other people. That's why meeting and networking is
Yeah.
so great.
Yeah.
I'm like,
So I
we
think
should
it's so
put this out
GoDaddy
there.
has their own auction. So I
Ah,
ended up talking to the guy who called me to renew the domain. I'm like, and he's like, well, do you want to sell it? I'm like, yes. So he did it. But then also I learned from my friend Kim of Today's Creative, um, is it Today's Creative Life? But it's Flippa, Flippa, will flip domain names for you.
that's great. Well, that's another thing I didn't know about. So yes, do the things that don't take too much time and too much money in the beginning because you don't know how it's gonna go. My son came to me and said, "My friend and I have an idea and we want to trademark something. How much did it cost?" And I said, "Don't do it yet. Make sure your idea has some legs. Test it out." That's what I learned, you know, by reading the Lean Startup, right,
Yes.
about MVP. And so it took me a couple
Yeah.
years
And then
before
and
I
then
knew
re
how
real
to
quick, MVP is minimal viable
yes.
product.
Yes, a minimal viable product is taking your idea and putting it out in the universe and testing it without having to invest to build an app. If you do a website, you do it on your own, and you just put up one simple page and see if people will sign up. That's what I did. I started putting out surveys and having moms come and fill them out to tell me what they needed in their childcare, and then finding the providers and having them fill out the same survey. And that didn't take a whole lot of, time and money and effort.
Yeah.
It takes some, and you can do it a little at a time, and, just concentrate on making progress. But each step of the way, then you realize, okay, now I have gig workers working for me. I've got to get
Mm-hmm.
liability insurance. So, you can
Yeah.
have all these thoughts in your head, which sometimes paralyze people, right? The paralysis of
Yes.
analysis. That's when you do need to start writing things down.
Yeah.
Okay, these are some priorities, but I don't need the insurance when I don't have the workers yet, right?
Okay, so yes, let's really highlight and circle that because you're absolutely correct. People get completely stuck in their tracks when they don't have all of the answers right this very second. And you are a testament to this. You had enough faith in yourself that you knew the answers would come at the correct time, and you understood that it'll happen when it happens. You'll figure it out when you need to figure it out.
hmm And if there was something that I thought, okay, this is really critical, I want to make sure that this doesn't fall through the cracks, you keep a priority list, not to make yourself worried. Sometimes I feel like it's less of a burden and less worry if I can put it down on paper and, just don't be overwhelmed. I do have a lot of piles of paper in my office. I'm a kind of
That's
person,
okay.
a lot of different things going on. But, you have to stay organized, and it helps to again involve somebody else so they can kind of remind you, okay, we talked about insurance, now we've got some customers and people working,
Yeah.
let's get that in place, and everything in time, and you can figure it out as you go along. And sometimes reaching out to others, getting those books, listening to those podcasts is
Yeah.
all part of the learning and coming up with the ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. It sort of reminds me of someone saying that they don't want to get rich because they don't want like distant relatives to come out of the woodwork. I'm like, well, let's worry about that later. like,
Yeah.
like let's get this idea off the ground first.
Or they don't want to pay more in taxes.
Oh, I know.
We used to
Like
hear
that's
that in the
actually a
real
great
estate
problem to have.
seminar.
So you're
Oh
fine.
my, oh my gosh, I'm going to have all this extra tax burden. Yeah, that's because you're going to have all this extra money. You have to, that's a person looking at the glass half empty. And I always look at the glass half full.
Yeah.
And I know, there are some people that feel like they get stuck in that mode of, well, that's just naturally who I am. But I think there are ways to turn it around by even surrounding yourself with other people who are positive, right? Don't they say that you're the conglomeration of the people that you surround yourself with? So
Yeah.
if you find yourself around negative and toxic people, move on from them. At least
Yes.
that will open up some space in your life. And so as a leader of a business, when you bring people on, you have to consider all of those things. You want to create a culture, and we're just at the
Yeah.
beginning of that. But the culture that we're creating at MomSub is going to be one of acceptance and no judgment and flexibility. If you want to work for the company a couple days a week, we're going to welcome that. If you want to jump in and work full time and move up to the executive level, we're going to welcome that. And if you want to bring your kids,
Yeah.
we hope to offer that as well. So and you can always go and do that gig work, on the app as a provider if you want to have your kids with you. And so I just want there to be as many welcoming options for women as there can be, because for too long there weren't enough.
Agreed. Agreed. Diane, thank you. Thank you so much. Reach out to Diane, momsub.com. You, if this sparked interest in you, if this is something you want to do, if you want to bring Mom Sub to your area, if you want to invest, if you have ideas, Diane is amazing and wonderful and absolutely real and authentic. Like she is who she is on TV, and she is who she is in real life. It's just such a great idea, and I'm so happy that we connected. Thank you for spending so much time with us.
Thank you for all of the probing questions, and for really bringing all of that out so that I could share with others, the struggles that I went through. So if they're going through some of those, they can understand and relate. There's something better on the other side there, and stick with it, because we're all in this together. and women are up nowadays about helping other women, right? We're not
Yeah.
competing anymore.
No, we're
We're
not
all
competing.
helping each
Yeah,
other.
it's
So thank
interesting.
you for helping me, Stephanie. This
Oh,
is a wonderful thing that you're doing for me and for MomSub.
yeah. So it's interesting because a big part of slow living is deciding on purpose what the next best step to take is. And I don't like hustle culture where you feel like you're behind. But slow living doesn't mean that you're lying around on the couch eating bonbons all day and not actually doing anything. Um, and you are absolutely the poster child for that. So I'm just so thrilled that our paths crossed.
Appreciate it, and look forward to watching all the things happening in your life as well, Stephanie, with slow living. So glad I met you.
All right, Slow Down Society. Thank you for spending so much time with us. Thank you, Diane. Be sure to check out MomSub. We will put all of the links in the show notes. As always, consider yourself loved and hugged. And I think you are wonderful. Do you have a slow living story to share? Leave me a voicemail at stephanieoday.com/podcast with any questions, comments, feedback, or testimonials, and I will be sure to include it in an upcoming episode. Also, if you found value in this episode, please share it with your family and friends and subscribe through your favorite podcast provider. The more you share, comment, and leave positive reviews, the more people we can reach and share the slow living lifestyle and messaging. Thank you, Slow Down Society, and have an absolutely wonderful day.